off all these siege tanks now. Those drones really desperately trying to run for their lives. There's Wednesday Night
vVv Gaming.
Into game 2 in this best of 7 series. Gosu up 1-0 after the disqualification of RuFF because he did not show up to game 1. So it will be vVv's Titan versus GoSuHwangSin on Tall Dream Altar. How do you like this map for each of the players?
Well, it's gonna give the Protoss player I think an advantage a little bit early on, especially when he possibly goes for that Forge Fast expand. And then Titan's perhaps going to struggle to get on 3 bases. Can be a little bit difficult as we do see vVv Titan spawning as the red Zerg in the northeast position here, and his opponent GoSuHwangSin will be spawning as the blue Protoss in the southeast position. But a 3rd base can be a little bit tough here for Zerg to take just because those rocks. A lot of Zergs starting to place a hatchery next to the rocks and start mining off of it, and then taking down the rocks at a later point in the game, adding another hatchery in its place, and sort of having 4 hatcheries off of the 3 bases there. So a lot of different tricks you can use to try to get a 3rd up here, but again, the Protoss player probably going to go for that Forge Fast expand and have a very strong window for a 2-base timing attack.
Yeah, definitely a 2-base timing attack coming in as we now see GoSuHwangSin scouting in the counterclockwise direction. He will get a little bit lucky and scout his opponent rather quickly, and he'll see that his opponent is not going for any sort of 6-pull or 7-pull harassment here on Tall Dream Altar. I know a lot of Zerg players, they sometimes take that chance hoping that their opponent is trying to do a Forge Fast expand instead of getting a gateway and scouting in the wrong direction. The probe will be able to come in here, and we'll see what Titan goes for. Titan normally opens up with the extractor pool, but because this is Tall Dream Altar, he may decide to try and go for that fast hatchery. That fast hatchery ever so powerful, but we are going to now see a spawning pool come in, so it is going to be pool first here on Tall Dream Altar.
And looks like Wansin will be going for a Nexus first, so he just has his 1 pylon out, so it's going to be pylon Nexus, and that pylon is positioned in a way that a Baneling bus could come into play here for Titan. As you mentioned, Titan usually goes for that pool and then the gas. We haven't seen the gas added yet, so we'll see whether he adds that in the next few food or whether he tries to get down the quick expansion before gas.
Yeah, so GoSuHwangSin now kind of just greedy, knowing that his opponent hasn't placed down a hatchery yet, and instead going for that Nexus first. That may be a little bit ambitious of him, as now a Forge is going to be a little bit delayed, and also those cannons are going to be delayed as well. The spawning pool has now been completed, and now you see 6 Zerglings have been trained and queued up, and Titan going to be running across the map as quickly as possible. You can see that the Overlord trying to figure out where his opponent is, and I believe the Zerglings will scout out in the clockwise direction and be able to perhaps make it in.
Yeah, Titan had been banking larva and minerals there, and he's actually still floating quite a few minerals up to about 300. So the first thing he's going to do is take down that probe, and Wansin perhaps going to cut a few probes of his own to get this wall up and running. He's going to want to get a cannon down, and he definitely needs the minerals for it. So cutting a probe or 2 here, we'll be getting down the gateway and the photon cannon. But again, his wall off is going to be a little bit weak on the pylons there. Again, 200 health, 200 shields, so just a few Banelings can bust through a pylon. You can get a run in there with Speedlings, and we do see that Titan's going to make it here just a little bit late. He's going to see the complete wall off here, and he's going to know that that Nexus is back there. Another pylon being added for Wansin here, actually 2 as Titan goes through a pylon there, so the cannon finally does finish, and Titan's going to be taking a free pylon. But at this point, his rush has failed a little bit, and he's going to have to go home and macro or come up with a new plan.
Yeah, the Zerglings now trying to run by and unable to do so, though. As they were testing that front door, a new pylon was warped in, and now a Cybernetics core finally being added. You can see drones are now being trained up by Titan as well. Taking a look at the Harvester count, it is 22 drones versus 23 probes, as that second Nexus is up. It is also chrono boosting out probes as well, as we are now going into the double gas for GoSuHwangSin. We most likely will see a Stargate coming and then training up of a couple Void Rays in order to push back any sort of roach pressure, which normally follows after this expansion attempt. And we'll see whether or not Titan will be able to get up that 3rd base, as he does set up that 3rd hatchery. As you mentioned, it's kind of like a macro hatch, but kind of not, as it does allow Titan to just harvest gas at least without any diminishing returns.
Yeah, you can harvest definitely that geyser, and the 3rd base for Zerg is definitely a gas base. You definitely want to get your geysers up on that running as quickly as possible. So he's going to get himself a 5th geyser here, or at least have it open to him. And you can do a little bit of inefficient mining on these minerals as well. And then as the game sort of hits its midway point, you just take down those rocks, you add another hatchery, and you know, you have a more efficient mining base and a macro hatch as well. So that's about the time you'd want a macro hatch anyway. We do see an overlord here from Titan, and Titan, as soon as he knew where his opponent was, sent an overlord down here, and he wants to know exactly what sort of tech route his Protoss opponent is going for. And looks like we're going to have a pause here from WangSin. We do have WangSin placing a pylon by the back mineral line, so he may decide to choose, or may choose to put his tech there instead of at his front door or in the line of that overlord, which is now scouting.
Yeah, so we'll really try to figure out what's going on, what's going down between these players. That third hatch is about, I think, what, 10 or 18 seconds away from being completed. We are also getting the level 1 weapons upgrade as well. So GoSuHwangSin gonna perhaps try to do some sort of two base pressure or two base timing, as you mentioned. It just feels very, very much delayed, as the pause please is, you know, suspending us in time, so to speak, as we are going to figure out what these players are going to be going for, and really what Titan's options are. As Titan was supply blocked for a little bit of time, sitting at 44 food. He just got an overlord, and he's banking a lot of minerals. We'll see what he's going to be able to do with those minerals.
Yeah, and WangSin is going to have another cannon finishing here in a moment. And really, it depends on how many, on what your opponent's doing, how many cannons you need to add to that wall. If you suspect some sort of roach and ling all in, or you know, heavy pressure, you have to add cannons. We do see he just has the 2 cannons, and he's got a sentry there as well. So hopefully, or he's hoping that with these cannons and the 1 force field he'll have on this sentry, he will be able to fend off any sort of pressure. I'll be interested to see what scouting information he has. He actually doesn't have anything. There's lings right outside of his base, keeping any probes from getting across, so he has no idea what's coming at this point. And just now adding 3 gateways, so we might see some gateway pressure from him. But I'd imagine, yeah, here's a 4th gateway being added, so he's definitely going to want between 5 and 7 gateways if he's going to be applying a lot of pressure here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a 6-gate pressure, most likely, as you now see that 5th gateway now coming in. Off of 2 bases, you can normally produce off of 6 gateways fairly easily. What Cybernetics Core about to be completed on that warp gate research, and now the level 1 weapons upgrade more than 2/3 of the way, and we may even get armor upgrades as well. We'll see what's going to be going down between these players, as Titan now mining the additional minerals off of this 3rd base, not really utilizing that gas chest quite yet. He has tech to tier 2, or will finish checking the tier 2 in just a moment, and now he also has that evolution chamber, making sure to get a spore crawler if necessary, just in case his opponent did hide a Stargate anywhere.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting here to see whether WangSin's able to get a probe across the field as well. Obviously, Titan does have these lings. Speed just now starting for both lings and roaches, so a very delayed speed. But again, he's got these lings positioned, so he's going to be able to see when WangSin does break down his front door and push out, and also when he takes this 3rd. But at the moment, just drones coming out for Titan. He's got 54 and just starting roach production as well as speed.
Yeah, we're going to see some zealots now making their way out, as the pylon has been taken down. The front door pylon has been destroyed, so that the units are able to move out there, and now that pylon has been replaced, as the stalkers, sentries, and some zealots are on the field making a move. You can take a look at the army size: 1,300 minerals, 1,000 gas versus 975 minerals, 350 gas. This is not looking good, but Titan is macroing up right behind this, and he may be able to fend it off, but he's getting spore crawlers instead of any spine crawlers right now.
Yeah, interesting decision by him. Looks like he will be able to get his roaches in on these stalkers, so might take down a stalker or 2. The force field's going up, so Titan's going to have to micro these roaches at the front, trying to focus down the sentries, and he's able to take down a sentry or 2, waste a lot of force fields. Another set of roaches get stuck behind those force fields, and WangSin does have a no pylon in place yet, so he's just going to be reinforcing off the pylons in his base. And we do see Titan might have been able to fend that off. 9 roaches and 22 lings about to come out, and I think Titan's definitely going to be able to fend off this early pressure, forcing WangSin to go home.
Yeah, I think that was really, really smart of Titan to focus down that pylon that was warping in. By focusing it down, no more reinforcements were able to warp in, and then all of those reinforcements were now just warping in back at home. Instead, you're going to see WangSin now establish his own 3rd base by destroying those destructible rocks. The rocks over here in Titan's base have not been destroyed, or haven't even been touched at this point, so the roaches may try to return home and destroy those rocks, and perhaps set up the official hatchery that should be mining from this location.
Yeah, definitely. Especially Titan seeing that his opponent's soon going to be on 3 bases, needs to take down those rocks and get a real hatchery up and running there. He is adding that 5th gas so he can mine off that shortly, and he needs to be adding drones at this point. It looks like another round of drones just popped. It is 67 to 63 in terms of harvesters, and it looks like Titan going to establish that 12 o'clock 4th base. So he needs to pick a direction here tech-wise. He's getting both a Spire and an Infestation Pit, as well as Ground Carapace level 1. So at this point, hasn't really tipped his hand as to what he's going to be going for, as he does get the Pathogen Glands going on the Infestation Pit. So we'll see whether he goes for a Roach Infestor play.
Yeah, Roach Infestor play. We'll see if that's going to work at all, or perhaps he's just checking quickly into Hive Tech, and also most likely will be trying to go into Greater Spire. So that's the only reason why you would go for Spire and also go for Infestation Pit. And we'll see if that's going to really work for him. It's going to be very, very gas intensive. Titan running off of 5 gas. He could get that 6th geyser over here, and also that 12 o'clock base that Matron mentioned moments ago. But an Observer is going to be able to scout out everything. If it moves a little bit too close to the Spore Crawler, it may reveal itself, though.
Yeah, as we see, Spore Crawlers, I'm not sure whether he allowed one of those to finish and not the other. He's getting 2 more Spore Crawlers, 1 in the 3rd and 1 in the natural. And at the moment, Titan just coming out with a few Infestors, as the Pathogen Glands will finish before the Infestors do come out, so they will have that energy. And now it looks like WonSin will lose that Observer, and that's pretty important because he just finished his Robotics Bay, so he's going to be coming out with a lot of Colossus now, and having to remake that Observer after you lose it can definitely hold up that Robotics facility and really force a lot of time where you're not able to make Colossus.
Yeah, right now we are going into that Greater Spire, and I like this move by Titan. I think Titan most likely suspects that his opponent is going to be going for Colossi, and one of the issues with Zerg is that those Corruptors are so effective against Colossi that you have to get them. But as soon as those Colossi are taken care of and destroyed, those Corruptors essentially become flying casters with a very, very expensive spell that doesn't really do anything at all. And having the option to just morph them into Broodlords gives them a whole new life and a whole new aspect on the game. And we'll see whether or not this will work out in the end.
So Titan's really going for buffet style Zerg play here. He's got Roaches with speed, he's got Infestors and Pathogen Gland, he's got Banelings coming out, he's got drops going, so he's going to be able to Baneling drop. Then he's also working on Greater Spire, so we could see Baneling drops with Infestors, Roaches, Lings, and Broodlords here in just a second as Spinecrawler is being added. And this is exactly the type of game that I think Titan wants to play. He was able to fend off that 6 gate, and now WonSin pushing out here, and Titan's been able to macro up. He's on 4 bases. He sees the army pushing out here. He knows the composition, but he's got Baneling drops ready to go, along with Infestors and a row of Spycrawler. So I think Titan, who's just maxed out here, definitely going to be comfortable with his position in this game.
Yeah, the only thing that I wish right now was that Titan had upgraded the melee attacks on those Banelings. Level 2 melee attacks on a Zergling can instantly destroy probes, and that is such an effective harassment tactic for Zerg, perhaps one of their best, next to Mutalisk harassment. As a Stalker, I'm not quite sure what it was doing, walking out of position straight into an army of Spinecrawlers. Roaches are now pushing their way in, and Titan feels like perhaps he's just freeing up supply in order to... I'm not quite sure what that was about at all.
Yeah, that was definitely freeing up a little bit of supply as we have 2 Broodlords coming out now. He is going to keep some Corruptors so that he can take down those Colossus, focus them down just a little bit faster. Now WonSin is going to be harassing along this cliff, focusing down these Spinecrawlers with the extended thermal lance range. The Spinecrawlers won't be in range to do any sort of damage, but this is delaying for Titan. He's going to have Broodlords up by the time this finally does hit. He's got 2 already, 1 more on the way, and we could have a big engagement in just a moment.
Yeah, so the Broodlords are trying to engage. The Colossi do move relatively quickly compared to those Broodlords, though, as those Colossi are now trying to push their way in. Spinecrawlers and Zerglings, they are engaging. Stalkers are on that high ground, and in comes the Blink. And now carpet bombing about to happen. There's the fungal growth, and Banelings just completely detonating all on top of those Stalkers. A lot of Infestors have gone down, but the Roaches are now trying to push their way through past those force fields. Roaches do have a very, very fast movement speed as those Colossi are getting destroyed, but in comes a new wave of Stalkers, and all those Roaches are desperately now trying to retreat.
Yeah, especially with the Immortals coming in as well. 3 Immortals for WonSin, so they're going to be very powerful against the Spine Crawlers and the Roaches alike. You'll see those Infestors don't have any more energy, so the Broodlord's going to be sniped down by these Stalkers as they do blink in there. The Roach is getting a nice surround on the Stalkers, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to take on these Immortals. The one Immortal very low, just 1 hit point left. It does go down, and now the Roach is focusing down those Immortals, and now we've got a round of Lings coming out trying to get a surround on these remaining Stalkers, and the one Colossus being focused down by Titan. So right now it's just WonSin with these Stalkers, and now they're being chased down by these Lings. The proxy pylon going to be going down, and Titan coming out with a bunch more Lings and a lot of Roaches. 2 Colossi coming out for WonSin, so we'll see who's able to reload here and engage again before the opponent.
Yeah, if you take a look at the Harvester count, this is one of those situations where Harvester count matters so much. It's 74 to 75 right now. Both players are even, but a lot of Spine Crawlers are still being added, and that may be an issue for Titan. Titan definitely needs to get more drones. If he builds too many buildings, he will end up falling behind, as the Zerglings are now going to try to run by, but in comes some Stalkers to try to intercept all of these Zerglings. The Zerglings will not be able to stop any of the mining here, as WonSin was able to establish an expansion at the 6 o'clock location as well.
Yeah, I think Titan at this point going to try to run off of Roach and Ling, but if we check the upgrades, the Roaches are at 1-2, and I believe the Lings are at 0-2, so not very good upgrades. I think he definitely needs to add more Broodlords as well as Infestors. He lost all those Infestors in that last encounter, and they're such a powerful unit in all matchups. You really need them to deal with the death ball that Protoss will throw at you, as WonSin now macroing up. He's at 144 compared to the 183 of Titan, and it looks like Titan's going to try to get aggressive here, perhaps take on the 4th of WonSin and prevent that mining, but these Broodlords move so slowly across the field, it's going to take quite a while for him to get over there.
Yeah, and another problem that we're going to have is the Dark Shrine is about to be completed. I don't see any Overlords or Overseers anywhere in the middle of the field, so they are going to be able to run through the army rather quickly, as 5 Dark Templars are now warping into the field. We'll see where they're going to be deployed to, as WonSin will be able to perhaps push back this attack. The Stalkers are not going to blink in to try to engage the very long range of those Broodlords, able to launch a couple of Broodlings and do a little bit of scratch and dent damage onto those Colossi.
And we've got 4 more Broodlords on the way, but they're being morphed in back at the base of Titan, so it's going to be a while before they can even join the fray here in the center, as we do see the Dark Templar have sort of been shown at this point, and they're being sent all across the map. 1 to the 5th of Titan was just finished, and now we see a huge encounter at the 4th, as the DP is trying to do their best to take down Roaches, but I'm not sure that WonSin is going to be able to take down the Roach Force here before it focuses down that Nexus. So the Nexus does go down, and now it looks like Titan's going to be sacrificing all these Roaches just for that one Nexus, but it might have been worth it. WonSin is going to be able to get it up quickly again, but his income is going to be hurt for the next minute or two while that Nexus does complete.
Yeah, WonSin right now, he could try to attack, and right now this is the perfect opportunity. His army more than doubles his opponent in size, but the Zerg production shows itself as you see a large number of units now training up, and this army, a 10k or a 10k resource army versus a 6k resource army, will really come down to who's able to execute a little bit more efficiently. There are a lot of Broodlords and now an Overseer finally added to this army here, as the Colossi really don't want to move out, and I think WonSin is giving Titan a lot of credit this time around. He does not want to engage. He knows that by engaging right now, he may be in a very difficult situation, but Titan does end up losing his hatchery here at the natural expansion, close to what I'll call the center 10 o'clock location, and that hatchery is now being rebuilt.
Yeah, and Titan using his entire force moving over there. I don't really like that move. He's added just a few Infestors now. He's got 2. So I think he needs either more Infestors or more Baneling Bombs. He's definitely hurting on gas at this point, making all those Roaches and the Broodlords, but he's going to need some sort of AoE when WonSin maxes out here. He's already at 191. Once the 200 Death Ball pushes out, with all these Colossi, you need that AoE in the form of Fungal Growth or the Baneling Drops. He did such a great job in that last encounter, bypassing the force fields with the Baneling Drops. I have a feeling that this time, though, WonSin might get the better of the encounter if there's no AoE from Titan.
Yeah, Titan right now trying to clear out this expansion over here on the bottom left-hand side. It looks like the Nexus taking a lot of hit points. It may actually be forced to be canceled. It does get destroyed, so that may have been 400 minerals lost. I don't know if it was refunded or canceled in time. And 6 Zerglings, definitely the heroes of the hour or the minute right there, able to stop an expansion and delay it, eating into the mineral count of HwangSin even further. Both players are now sitting at max food, 200 compared to 200, but Titan definitely has a lot more minerals banked, and as long as Titan has a lot of larvae saved up off of his hatcheries, which he currently has 34 larvae, he should be fine if he tries to exchange armies right now.
Yeah, that actually was canceled, so WonSin just losing a small portion of that, the Nexus cost there, as we see Titan sort of sacrificing an Overlord here in the south, not quite sure why. But again, as you mentioned, his bank is going to be a little bit bigger than WonSin, so in any sort of encounter, Titan's going to be able to reload quite a bit faster, but these DTs are just doing so much damage and harassing. It looks like the hatchery might actually go down here for Titan, down to just 300 HP in the western part of the map here, but it will stay up, and I have a feeling that Titan's going to be adding some spine crawlers and spore crawlers to this base. He really needs to get those bases in the northwest up and running so that he can continue to reload anytime a battle happens.
Yeah, Zerglings are now trying to do a scout, but quickly run into a lot of Colossi. Stalkers are also moving in. And the real question that's going to be happening now is how is Titan going to deal with the 3-1 upgrades of HwangSin? HwangSin has 3-1-1 upgrades at this point, and will soon have 3-2-2 upgrades as he's starting to get the level 2 Protoss shields. And that is going to be a lot of damage. We can see that there are overlords with banelings. A Nidus network has just been completed, as Titan now using everything except for Ultralisk. And where is that Nidus worm coming in?
It might come in the main of Titan. He did have an Overlord there, but a nice blink down, a Stalker able to take down that Overlord. It was spewing a little bit of creep, and I'm not sure what WonSin's doing at this point, as we do see a Nidus Worm coming in the southwest position, so we will be able to flank easily, especially those bases which WonSin is throwing up. But WonSin hasn't saturated the 5th or 6th base here. He's basically setting them up with cannons, so he has an opportunity to mine there if he needs, but he has the 72 harvesters compared to the 60 of Titan, and at this point I think he's maybe just banking up, but Titan at this he's basically at 4,500 minerals and 1,800 gas, so I have a feeling that engagement should be coming here at some point. Titan really needs to start trading here, taking advantage of his bank.
Yeah, definitely, as we now see 3 Stargates now being added, 7 photon cannons at this natural expansion here at the center 9 o'clock expansion, as a Stalker is just trying to keep track of the army. Titan has a decent amount of map presence and map awareness, knowing where his opponent is at this point, as Zerglings are going to be running straight into a couple of photon cannons here. This is not looking good. There's so much natural defense that these probes are going to be able to mine in peace for a little while longer, and both players sitting on over 5k resources. This is rather odd.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's the bigger fraidy cat here. Is one player or the other is going to have to push out. Again, WonSin has set up these expansions, just now has them saturated, and Titan has his saturated as well, spending a lot of minerals on spine crawlers, and I'm not quite sure why. Maybe he's going to try to delay the loss of those bases if he loses this next encounter, but trying to spend those minerals, I'd much rather see him trade armies here. Use the AoE capabilities of the banelings and those infestors, and then just remax and crush his opponent. But WonSin is getting his own bank going here, and at some point something's got to give.
Yeah, and Titan wasn't really aware, and he ended up just getting losing this hatchery over here at the center expansion location, as a fight may now be coming in. There are a lot of Broodlords. There are banelings in Overlords, Roaches, and Zerglings, and now in come the Broodlords. It is raining Broodlings at the natural expansion over here at the 9 o'clock expansion location.
Really like to see a baneling drop. You could just use a few banelings here to take down all those probes, and I think that would definitely get rid of the probes a little bit faster than these Broodlords. It's going to give an opportunity for the Protoss Deathball to move over, and at this point we've got Immortals, Sentries, Colossi, High Templar, everything but carriers. So WonSin pushing out 186 to the 199 of Titan, and we'll see a battle in just a second.
Yeah, a massive number of force fields now coming in. The Stalkers are trying to come up, and it looks like there will not be an engagement. The Colossi could easily break through those force fields, but all those force fields, just a lot of energy lost, as it looks like those Overlords may be trying to come in for a bombing run. Not 100% sure. We'll see whether or not those Broodlords will be able to perhaps finish off those Stalkers, as those Stalkers are just getting picked apart now. Got to be very, very careful. There in comes the blink. One Broodlord does get taken down, but at the cost of a lot of Stalkers, and this may be a very bad trade for HwangSin.
Yeah, WonSin basically split up his Stalkers there and probably should have kept them together a little bit. He does get 2 Broodlords, so Titan's going to have to replace those quickly. He's just down to these 4 Broodlords, and you need those big tier 3 units. A lot of Colossi are out. for WonSin. And again, WonSin holding this tower in the southern position, not quite sure what he's delaying for. It looks like Void Ray is coming out, and he's adding more Stargates. So an Ultralisk Cavern coming out for Titan, all sorts of tier 3 going on. Protoss Air Armor level 1 coming out for WonSin. At this point, sort of, I think, maybe just toying with Titan. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, well, both players are not really too concerned about expansions right now, as both players are sitting on over 8 to 9k resources combined between gas and minerals each. So both of them know that they can replenish an army rather quickly. We'll see if additional gateways do go down for HwangSin, as HwangSin most likely will try to utilize the warp gate cooldown ability to their best effect. Meanwhile, Titan, now sitting on 63 larva, could easily just crank out a whole bunch of units the minute that he wants or needs them. But right now, I would also like to see Titan try to expand perhaps to the 9 or 8 o'clock locations.
Yeah, it looks like Titan's going to be forcing the issue a little bit here, taking down a Colossi. I'm not sure if he got one, but he had those Corruptors in position and pushing forward with these Broodlords, trying to bait a Blake out of WonSin. He's got the Infestors go down to a nice feedback, and those Colossi beams, so I'm not sure whether Titan has any more Infestors. He does not, so Titan's army at this point is 4 Broodlords, 35 Roaches, which is not really what you want to max out at as Zerg in the late game. They're two food, not a lot of DPS. They are a hardy unit, as we see WonSin pushing up here, ready to force the action.
Yeah, here we go. The Banelings are going to be dropping, but they're only going to hit all the ground units. There are mass Void Rays now in the air. How is this going to get stopped? The Roaches on the ground are not going to be able to do anything at all, as those Void Rays are just simply walking over all of those Roaches and these Broodlords as well. Titan definitely needs to change it up, and he is going to go into 24 Mutalisks right now. He could probably even train up even more, but he is currently supply blocked, or was supply blocked, as these Broodlords are getting destroyed. This is not looking good for Titan at all.
Yeah, WonSin pushing forward here, 151 to 148 of Titan. Titan lost a lot of Overlords there as well, making 12 at the moment. He wasn't able to pull those back after the Baneling bombs went off. And now we see a number of drones, 16 in fact, moving into this position. Might be taken down by these Void Rays. In fact, the 22 Muta is going to be popping out a little bit late to save the space. Just the one Spore Crawler in position here. All these Spine Crawlers, which Titan had wanted to use to take down the ground army, any sort of forces that would be pushing forward to take down these expansions after a big battle. The Spine Crawler is just useless, as the big battle only left these Void Rays. As the Mutas come in here, 24 Mutas against these Void Rays, going to be taking them down very quickly. Some of the Void Rays are charged up, but those Mutas don't provide a very good target and have that AoE. All those Void Rays go down, and now we see a ton of Lings coming out along with more Mutas.
Yeah, and just a correction, it wasn't 24 Mutas, it was actually 48. He actually trained 2 batches of 24, so it looked, I was taking a look at them, I'm like, how are these Mutalisks taking that long? If you take a little unit tab right now, it is 37 Mutalisks right now, and those 37 Mutalisks may be very, very difficult to stop, as they're going to be able to take down Stalkers and unit time and time again.
But the Mutas don't have any upgrades. They're 0-0 at this point, and the Lings are just, well, they're 2-3, so I really feel like Titan needs to get out those AoE units, the Tier 3 and Ultras, Broodlords, Infestors. Right now, just basically going to sort of a mid-game composition with these Mutas and Lings, and unless you've got Infestors or some sort of hardy unit, I'm not sure he's going to be able to do too much damage here, as we already see Phoenix coming out 4 at a time, as well as Archons for WonSin.
Yeah, those Archons are really going to be the problem. Those Phoenixes do move faster and are able to engage against those Mutalisks rather easily. It looks like the Phoenixes are trying to shoot them down, and there are air weapon upgrades for the Void Rays and the Phoenixes. The Mutalisks are now going after those very, very vulnerable Colossi, but the Immortals now are being forced to run away, but the Phoenixes are going to get some easy damage, and now Titan once again on the run. Titan's bank has pretty much nearly been depleted, as HwangSin now sitting on about 4,000 total resources and still at maximum food.
Yeah, Titan at this point just 136 against the 188 of WonSin, and again, most of his forces are those Lings and Mutas. Relatively squishy composition, as the Mutas definitely go down quickly to Storms, the Phoenix which are coming out, as well as those Archons doing splash damage. WonSin at this point could just push out and kill Titan if he chose to, but instead it looks like he's going to be defending here and hoping to take down this Muta ball down to 17 Mutas. So 48 to 17, that's quite a drop, and these Phoenix just working on these Mutas. The Archons getting a shot or two. And Titan basically bemoaning the fact that there's not too much of an answer to the Protoss army, but I really think he needed more Infestors, more Banelings, and then coming out with an Ultra or two would also have helped. And there's the 1G from Titan, who was definitely a good game. Both players at the end there basically sitting on their max army, but I think Titan remaxed with a composition definitely not able to handle what WangSin was throwing at him.